On this episode, we discuss some of Thailand's common but seldom discussed cultural quirks.
So, if you still find yourself trying to understand the what or why of the odd cultural miscommunication, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001 to put some distance between myself and a girl who broke my heart, only to run into her on an island with her new boyfriend. Or perhaps I just like the movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall so much I'm projecting the plot onto my own life. It's a great movie if you haven't seen it.
And I am Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 20 years ago. Got stuck behind a slow-moving Thai person on the stairs at the BTS station, and I've never left.
I'm recording from the station.
I'm still there. we want to say a quick thank you to one of our patrons, Fluff Abramson. That's right, Fluff, who supports us at the show shout-out level. Stick around after we're done talking about some of Thailand's unspoken cultural rules to hear why Fluff can pass for a Thai, but only up to a point. And a huge thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a whole bunch of cool stuff, including our ad-free regular show a day early, behind-the-scenes photos and videos of our interviews, discounts on swag, which you can find on our website, and various other things that aren't available to regular listeners. But best of all, patrons like Fluff also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and random topics. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and we chatted about a few things, including an update on naming conventions for new diseases from the UN, the huge fine that some Thai provinces have put in place for not wearing a mask outdoors, and my upcoming COVID vaccine, and whether the version I'll get is the good one, or whether that even matters. To become a patron, head to bangkokpodcast.com/support.
Can I drive you to your vaccination appointment and it'll be like, back in the day when you used to get like, back in the day when you get a stamp on your hand to go into the cool club and then like you lick your hand and rub your fingers. Can I like rub my bicep on your arm to get some of that sweet vaccine love?
I'll sneak you in, dude.
Thanks, man. All right. Well, on this episode, Ed and I want to discuss some of the more common but seldom talked about cultural quirks that us foreigners have to learn to adapt to or work around when you live in Thailand. So despite living here for 20 years and having a pretty good bead on how things work, there are still a few perpetual unsolved quirks, issues, and problems that confuse us or otherwise require us to suspend as much of our innate farangness as possible to deal with in what we hope is an appropriate way. So Ed, this was actually an idea sent in by one of our listeners, our friend Wes, and I thought it was a really good idea because there is a ton of things that I could think of, like little things that we just, you eventually forget about, but there's something that we just either have learned to do but don't understand, or still just make us confused. And I thought that the people don't really talk about, so I thought it might be fun to sort of dive in.
That's right. It's funny because obviously cultural rules are not written down. They're quote unquote norms of behavior, and sometimes I really wish they were written down. Some stuff, like you said, there's a lot of stuff that I do, and I guess that I'm passing. It's okay, but I have really no idea if I'm doing it at the right time or not. And I really wish someone would just tell me when to do X and when to do Y, because I don't know. I'm just faking it, and I'm getting by.
Fake it till you make it.
That's right. But I don't really know if I'm doing the right thing or not.
Yeah, well, the first one that I thought of was the famous Thai phrase, arai wa.
Now, dude, you even got to be careful saying that because that's a rude word for Thai people. Like,
should I bleep it?
No, what I'm saying is, since this is an adult show, basically that expression is roughly equivalent to saying, what the f*** in English.
Right. Should I bleep the arai or should I bleep the wa?
Should we bleep the what the fuck? I don't know.
I will probably bleep everything. This will just be 15 seconds of solid beep. But the point is that almost every single Thai person I've ever met and talked to on more than a professional level has said "Alewa," sort of in passing. Something doesn't work. They're trying to change a channel and the remote doesn't work. Whenever any little thing where we'd sort of think in English like, what the heck or what the hell's going on here? And they would say "Alewa."
I mean, this is why it's so hard to translate. I think it's more than what the heck or what the hell. Maybe it's not, maybe it's not quite as harsh as what the F. Maybe it's not quite that harsh, but I do think it's more than what the hell.
Right. But a lot, like men, women, young, old, all say it.
I don't know, dude, I don't hear it that often. Dude, first off, I don't hear it that often. I do hear it, but you're acting like you hear it regularly. I don't hear it regularly.
No, I don't hear it regularly, but I'm just saying like, no,
kids do not bust that out often. They do not.
I don't hang around that many kids except my own. That's by choice.
Maybe your kid does.
The point is, when I've heard it and I say it, Thais react with horror.
You're right. I mean, for sure. Yeah, this is the problem where sometimes I've gotten away with it, but you're right. Sometimes I've said it where my wife has been like more or less being like, dude, like chill, like you got to be quiet. Don't say it so loud. I think it is an extreme statement, but I don't know how extreme it is exactly.
Right, but like if I'm with a Thai person and they say "Alewa," and then like an hour later I say "Alewa," they're like, whoa, you can't say that. I'm like, but you just said it. I learned it from you. I'm like, yeah, but I'm Thai. Right. So, maybe there's some sort of like contextual layer to it that
for sure.
That also applies to English. Like you said earlier, you said "what the f," but you can say that a million different ways, and it can be interpreted in a million different ways too, depending on the context, depending on the situation. But I just find it funny that I'm literally copying exactly what a Thai person says, and they're like, "Ooh, no, you can't say that."
In this show, we've got a bunch of specific cases, but for me, I have this overarching problem, which after 20 years has been essentially unsolvable. Okay, or at least for me. I don't know if you feel the same way I do about this, but my problem is when I interact with Thai people, I notice that often they switch to kind of farang or Western rules. So even though we're in Thailand and I'm trying to follow Thai rules, they, because maybe these are Thais who are more international, or maybe Thais who speak English, they immediately interact with me as a foreigner would interact with me. So they stop acting Thai. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
So and I'm not blaming them or criticizing them. I mean, they're trying to adapt. They're being cool. They're adapting to me, but I'm trying to adapt to them. And so this is the problem. So this is, for me, this is the unsolvable problem. It's like because I'm trying to, I'm in Rome, so I want to do as the Romans do, and then actually the Romans are not doing as the Romans do.
For some reason, I'm just thinking about the Michael Jackson video of I can't remember which one, but those two guys are having a knife fight, but their arms are tied together. Like you're connected to this guy, but you're both dancing around each other, trying to avoid each other at the same time.
Well, I mean, it's just it's the classic thing where there are Thai people who you meet them and they switch to English and say, "Hello, how are you?" And I'm whying them, because I think they're older than me or something. You know what I mean? So it's like they're switching to farang rules, and then I'm trying, because I'm in Thailand, I'm trying to stick to Thai rules, and then it ends up being this confusing mess. Like I really wish there was like I don't know what the solution is. It's just like I need some kind of like symbol or something to be like, hey, I'm trying to be Thai. Just pretend I'm Thai. Just let me try to be Thai. Stop changing your own rules. Like and again, I'm not blaming them. Like they're being accommodating. Like that's what they're doing. They're accommodating me. They're like, okay, here's an idiot. Here's a foreigner, and they just assume
here's an idiot.
But they're like, okay. So they just switch to Western rules. Like again, maybe they're more international or whatever. They stop playing by Thai rules. And then I don't know if I'm supposed to play by Thai rules or not.
Far be it from me to suggest that everyone has to go around wearing something pinned to their clothing, because that goes down a dark road. But maybe we should all have like little name tags on. And if it says like, "Hello, my name is Ed," then it's like, you can talk to me in English. But if it says,
"That's right,
Sawadee ka, pom chil Ed," then it's
I agree with this.
I'm Thai.
I'm all about this. I hate when people talk to me as if I'm a tourist. So I definitely think there should be some symbol that means like I'm not a tourist.
I think you got to stop wearing your socks pulled up to your knees and having that camera around your chest all the time.
Maybe that's the problem. But to me, this is the overarching problem. And, we've got a bunch of specific cases, but, I could go, honestly, I could go on for hours about this. Like, for example, I'm a professor at a Thai university, so I'm an Ajahn in Thai. And in general, Thai people treat Ajahns with a lot of respect, and they certainly refer to them as Ajahn, and they Y them. And, as a Westerner, I don't need to experience that. It's not because if I was a teacher, if I was a professor in the States, of course, people would maybe be polite, but it's not like particularly high status, right? But I got to admit, I'm a little bit annoyed when Thai people learn I'm an Ajahn and they don't Y me and don't call me Ajahn, when I know if I was Thai, they would do that. You understand what I'm saying?
Damn it. Well, Give me the culturally mandated appropriate level of respect.
Well, for real, that's it. But I feel awkward bringing it up because I don't want my ass kissed. I don't. I just want to know what rules we're playing by. That's what I'm saying. It's like what they're doing is they're switching to my rules. And I'm like, I'm in their country. I'm like, wait, we're in Thailand. Like, just let's play by Thai rules. Like, when do we get to play by Thai rules if not in Thailand?
Well, let me ask you a question. Here's another cultural quirk. When you walk in front of someone, or say two people are talking and you have to step between them, do you duck?
Yeah, that's another thing. There's a weird lowering. This is another level. So obviously when you Y, which is another issue, there's like how high or low you Y, but there's also the like just lowering your body and lowering your head.
Right. Like if you like any Thai person who was walking in front of you, they would make a significantly observable lowering of their body as they walked past you.
And again, I try to do that. Like a lot of these things, I just bake it, but I don't really know when I'm supposed to be doing it or exactly. Am I trying to put my head lower than theirs? Like, I'm not sure where's the rule book? Damn it.
There is no rule book. That's what we're saying. But it's very noticeable. And I don't do it. I don't even think about it.
You don't do it at all?
No, not even. I don't even. It doesn't even register to me until after I've passed a person. I was like, oh, maybe I should have ducked it.
I mean, I'm not sure I do it all the time, but sometimes I definitely do that where I'm just walking in front of someone and I just duck down. It's kind of like sometimes it could be at a movie theater or like in a seating thing where you're walking in front of someone. You just kind of lower, like just kind of duck down a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. And I do the head nod, the sort of slight bow. The head nod that like motorcycle taxis drivers do when they like cut in front of a car, they do the magic head nod that sort of like forgives all. I do that, but I don't fully lower myself.
Yeah, that's more like a nod. To me, that's almost something. It's almost something international.
Yeah, I can see that. It's not specifically Thai, but it is an acknowledgement that I acquiesce to their authority for allowing me by. It's like crossing the bridge. Answer me these riddles 3. Not exactly the same, but similar.
Yeah, for sure.
A related story to this, and I think I've mentioned this on the show before, is years and years ago, I was in a movie where I was a bodyguard and I got shot with a machine gun, and I had to lay on the ground surrounded by a pool of fake blood.
Oh, wow.
Which is
but the movie was not set in Thailand.
It was set in Thailand, yeah.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah, I was a body. I think it's you can find it online. It's called like Huajai Ha Hero or something like that. I can't remember. It was pretty bad. But anyway, so I'm laying there on the ground covered in blood, and they're about to shoot, and they're making some last minute adjustments to the set and to the lights and things like that, which always happens. And first of all, fake blood smells delicious because it's like sucrose, it's sugar. And I'm hungry, right? I'm laying on the floor, basically surrounded.
Start lapping up the blood.
Yeah, my head was turning left and right. And I'm like, oh, this is smelling so good. But all these guys, like these workhorses of any film set, were having real problems stepping over me. Because I couldn't move because my mark had been set.
They didn't want to step over you. I see.
But they had to step over me to get to that light or to get to that thing.
Oh, right. But for them, it was a rude thing to do.
Yeah, and I could see like some of them were having real problems with it. Like they felt really terrible about it, which I thought was very cute.
Well, at least in that case, you didn't have to do anything. You could just revel in their awkwardness.
Smell all that delicious fake blood. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's I guess this is in a way one of the themes of the Bangkok podcast, in that you and I have mastered some Thai stuff and we've adapted in some ways. But if you and I were just perfectly integrated, there'd probably no point for the show. Like half of the show is you and I going.
That's a very good point.
Going, holy shit! After 20 years, I still don't understand this, or I still can't do this right.
Yeah, the constant bewilderment of two morons. That's
I'm telling you this. I'm telling you this problem. It's like I have this. I don't have a solution to this problem when I meet a Thai person and they switch to Western customs. And I don't have a solution to this because I really want them to. I mean, of course, I would prefer them to speak English or at least be nice about my bad Thai, but I feel like I'm here, so I want to play by their rules, but then they switch to playing by my rules, and then I end up being confused.
I think part of it is a numbers game, right? I mean, for us, it's super easy to throw yourself into a Thai situation because they're all around us. But not every Thai person has the opportunity to throw themselves into a Western situation with Western people.
True.
It's a bit more unique for them, right?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that makes sense. I think we've mentioned this before, but in taxis, I end up in conversations where the taxi driver is speaking English and I'm speaking Thai, because they want to work in their English and I want to work on my Thai.
Yeah.
So it's totally backwards. It makes no sense.
There's got to be a meme about this. I don't know what it is, but there's got to be one out there.
So both of us are speaking the language that we're worst at.
Right. And as a result, takes you twice as long to get home.
Right. It's the least efficient, the worst level of communication possible.
It's like you're communicating with smoke signals or something.
So funny.
Well, here's another one that I thought was funny. And I noticed this a few years ago, and I've talked about this with our buddy Scott, who sometimes co-hosts the podcast. When you're in a restaurant and you want the waiter's attention or something, and you go nong kap, which is Thai for like young person or
right.
junior or something like that.
Right.
And I was in a restaurant one time, and I wanted something, and I said nong kap, and the waiter turned around. This dude was like 60 years old.
Oh, really funny.
I just felt like a complete tool because I'm basically seeing this guy who's clearly older than me, and I'm calling him like, hey, subordinate or junior.
Right. Again, I wish there was a rule book because I don't know what the right thing to do is in that case, because there's also like the social status factor of things.
Right. And some people could say, oh, well, why don't you just call him phee. In this case, sure, phee, which is older or senior. But what if I say phee and the person turns around and they're like 25?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the right thing to do is because I know Thai people they are looking at age, but they're also factoring in social status.
Yeah.
And then the other twist to the whole thing is they often, I wouldn't say often, but sometimes refer to people as phee, even when they know they're younger, as like a compliment, like to kind of treat the other person with more status than they deserve. They do that.
Right. It's like a lot of times I will be, I'll call a coworker or a friend. I'll say, thank you, sir.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Which is,
they're just being polite. It's like being polite, right?
Yeah. It's unnecessary, but it's polite. What happens if I say phee, but the person turns around and they look older, but they're actually younger? Or I say nong and they look younger, but they're actually older. Like, I don't know how to deal with this.
Well, I think this is I do think Thai people have an amazing trait of being able to guess or know people's ages, but they also are, if they don't know, they will ask. So, I've been in groups, I've been with some Thai people and we meet other Thai people, and sometimes they'll just straight up ask, like if they don't know who's older or younger, they'll just ask because they want to know how to treat the other person. So if they can't figure it out, they'll just ask.
I love it. I think it's good. Like, lay all your cards on the table. Sure.
Yeah.
But then also shouldn't be like, here, how old are you? Oh, I'm 46. Okay. How much do you make? What kind of car do you drive? How much are those shoes?
They do sometimes ask that too, but so I don't know. I try to avoid that, but.
Right. Like, I'm way younger than you, but I drive a Ferrari, so I demand to be called phee.
Yeah. So I do, I do have this problem where sometimes I meet a Thai person and I can't tell if they're older than me or not. Mm-hmm. And Thai people, I think in general, look young. So it's like I have to adjust from To me, I think it's especially Thai women. I mean, it's kind of a cliche or stereotype. You meet a Thai woman, and you're thinking like, she looks 16 or 17, and then you ask her how old she is, and she's 23.
Right.
That's the cliche. Or you meet a woman, you think she's 32, and she's 45.
Right. Yeah.
That happens all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I still have this. You can add this to the list of solutions. So I have not gotten good enough or comfortable enough to ask someone how old they are. I know that's what Thai people do sometimes to solve the problem, but I don't. Do you ever do that? 'Cause sometimes I meet a Thai guy, and I don't know if he's older or younger than I am. And so I think I probably should, if I was really trying to be Thai, I'd probably ask him, but it still feels weird to me.
I would never do it unless it's part of the conversation we're having, like we're talking about like, oh, you remember this movie? How old are you? Oh, you don't remember that movie.
Right.
But I would never just straight up ask them. I just maybe was brought up to think that's rude.
That means you have not assimilated 100%, dude.
Katoka.
You just assimilated.
I've done it. I've reached the Thai nirvana. But so also, luckily, a lot of times we can just hide behind the veil of farang ignorance. Well, the
truth is, I mean, although I still suffer through these awkward interactions after 20 years, the good news is Thai people are just nice about it. But
right.
But that doesn't matter. Like I really wish after 20 years I was just a master of Thai culture and Thai social situations, but I'm not. Like
right.
That's the problem. Like I'm okay. I've survived.
Right.
But
I feel like I should, like a cultural ninja.
I should be. I mean, we should be. Come on.
Right.
After 20 years, come on.
Like Marcus Brody from the Indiana Jones films. He can blend into any culture. He knows 30 languages. It's not us.
I just want to fit into one other than my
own. One other thing that we always have to learn to deal with, and this is, I know it bothers you a lot, and it bothers me as well. If you follow my Twitter feed, you'll see me complaining about it from time to time. But that is the speed at which Thai people walk.
Oh, Christ. This is up there. This is in my top 5 complaints, along with inaccurate menus and restaurant signs.
Well,
But go ahead. You can state the point first.
Let me ask you this, though. Is this a cultural quirk or is it a logistics quirk? Because the longer you lived here, the more you realize that, like, these Thai people know what's going on. They know their country and their climate better than I do. And clearly, it's better to walk slowly to your destination and arrive without sweat dripping down your back.
Yeah,
than it is to walk like a maniac like I do, arrive faster, but look like I just got out of a swimming pool.
No, you're right. I mean, I can't defend my desire to walk faster. I'm not saying it's smarter, but I feel like I have the right to walk at my speed. But I do often just get stuck behind people who are walking so slowly. It drives me crazy. So this is top 5 things that, I don't like about Bangkok is that I'm getting stuck behind slow walkers.
And not only that, it's usually like one 90-year-old woman who's a third my size that's completely blocking me on the sidewalks somehow.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't know, this is another cultural problem because I don't know the right way to get around them. Now, sometimes, there's leeway and you can kind of cut a wide berth. But a lot of times someone is walking really slowly and there's no easy way around them. And I sometimes I squeeze in between them, but I feel like it's, I'm almost like shoving them aside, like, hey, get out of my way,
Yeah, I've done that before and I always feel bad afterwards. But the most polite thing you can probably do is just say "Katokap," and then,
I do that sometimes.
But is that rude? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. This reminds me of when you and I go on bike rides, and sometimes we're on in narrow kind of alleys, and we have little bells on our bike. And so, at least on a bike, you can
manly bells.
Yeah, they're super manly.
Yeah. Ooga, like that.
That's right.
Not the ding.
That's great. At least we can ring the bell or blow the horn, and the person's like, oh, and farang ma lao, and then they get and they get out of the way. I wish there was like a farang bell, like there should be some kind of sound that means like a fast walking farang is coming up on you.
What do you think? We should have a contest. What do you think that sound would be?
I don't know, man.
The official farang sound.
I want to be able to just blow a horn and then like people clear a path. I don't think I'm a particularly fast walker. At least I don't remember back home or growing up ever. I lived in Chicago for 5 years. I lived in LA. I lived in North Carolina for 3 years. I don't remember ever being in a situation where people were like, dude, like you really walk fast. I just feel like I think I'm walking at what was a normal pace.
Yeah, same.
But there's obviously a lot of Thai people who prefer to walk at a slower pace. And I have no problem with that. It's like you said, there's cultural reasons for it. There's
logistical,
literal geographic reasons for it. But it's so weird when you get trapped behind people. It's like sometimes I feel like it's almost like I'm playing a video game where I move to the left and they move to the left and I move to the right and they move to the right, and I just can't get around them.
Finish him.
Yeah, I don't have a solution. I don't have a solution to this.
I'll bet you a horn, if it doesn't go auga or diddling, says alai wa really loudly. I bet you that would cause people to sort of stop and turn around.
That's a good idea. Maybe in like a farang accent that would really throw them off.
Alai wa. Yeah. Yeah, you're right though. If a Thai person is listening to this, they're probably like, this guy should censor this show. Like,
dude, you are swearing.
The Apple rating says this is a general audience show.
You're swearing. That's what I'm telling you. That's what's it. Okay, I think that expression on a scale of 1 to 10, I think it's like an 8, dude.
Really?
I do think it's an 8.
No, the way I've seen her to use, I would say 5 maybe.
No. I don't. I think it's more. But let's let our Thai listeners. That's the whole point. Where's the Thai rule book? Just give me the rule book.
It's got to depend on the context. Like if I said, "I won," that would not be as offensive as if I said "alai wa," and stared at someone right in the eyes.
Dude, you're saying the word "fuck" over and over again, and you don't even realize it.
I just feel like I'm saying words. Like I could be saying banana bread.
Well, that's right. They are just words.
They are just words. Sticks and stones.
They are just words.
The last one I have on my list here, and this is a rare one, and it's something that I've only seen a few times, but it is out there in the wild. And let me know if you've ever done this, Ed. But the rare one-handed Y.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I don't know what to do. Yeah, I don't know what to do when I'm carrying something or my hands are busy. I don't know if I'm supposed to Y or not.
Right. I think I've gotten it a couple times, and I've done it a couple times when a magic head nod doesn't seem enough.
Right.
And I want to show a particular level of thanks or appreciation for or recognition for something. And it's you're holding heavy bags with one hand or something, and just one hand up to your head, and then bowing your head, a one-handed Y.
I've seen Thai people do it. I just don't know when you're supposed to do it or not. Like, when are you excused from the Y?
That's a good question.
That's the issue. But I guess if you can shove all your stuff into one arm and one hand, then you still got to do the one-handed Y.
I don't see it that often, though. I've only seen it probably 5 or 6 times in 20 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I've definitely seen it, and I've definitely done it. Have you ever done it?
Yeah, I've done it. Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, but not a lot. It does give me an idea for a Thai focus, like the Thai workout. Just like the Y workout. Hold 2 dumbbells in your arm and just continually up to your head, Y, up to your head, Y. 15 reps.
Well, they definitely teach, I don't know what you have done with your son, but Thai people definitely train their kids to Y properly. I mean, I've seen it with strangers, and then even my Thai friends with kids, they give them instructions on the proper way to Y for sure.
It's so funny you say that. My son's Y is horrible. It's awful. He raises his hands to his belly button level and then bobs his head real quick like he's been hit in the back of the head with a slingshot.
Dude, you gotta get on that.
I know. I gotta up his Y game.
You do, for sure.
Yeah, you're right. I really do. We're not just joking.
People are gonna look down on him. They're gonna be like, "Oh, of course he's half wrong. Look how bad his Y is." You can't have that.
What kind of sloppy ass parents does he have? Disgusting.
That's right.
Foreigner. I really should ask his mom about that, my wife, and just say hey, we got to figure this out. I know he knows how to do it properly, but I think he's so westernized.
You got to get on that, man. He's got to be able to play both games like a monster. That's your goal, dude.
Both games like a monster. He's got to earn his years.
He's got to rule. He's got to rule both cultures.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Seriously, I really got to look into that because it's kind of embarrassing.
Don't worry, dude. You just have to do the work of 2 parents. So you and your wife, you have to do the work of 4 parents. That's all. You just have to do double the work.
That's no problem. Yeah. So anything else there, Ed? I think that's just a couple of funny little quirks that we've got to learn to deal with. There's probably a lot of little other ones we could get into, but these are just some that we find we encounter from time to time, but aren't really written anywhere and have a lot of ambiguity around them.
Man, I just wish I knew if I was playing, like, what rules I'm playing by. That's my meta problem.
Got to get that name tag.
Seriously, I want a little symbol that says, like, treat me like I'm Thai. I'm not a tourist. Something like that.
Gotta say that and have that written in Thai, because otherwise it's just you're just a poser.
We got to come up with just a symbol, some cool, like, Thai character, that means I'm not a tourist or I'm trying to assimilate.
How about a farang wearing elephant pants? Nothing says Thai more than that.
Yeah, right.
Nothing says I'm a local more than that.
That's right.
All right. Well, let's get into some love, loathe, or live with, where one of us picks a particular aspect of life in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something that we love about living here, loathe about living here, or have come to accept as something that we just have to learn to live with, no matter how we feel about it. And this week, it is my turn. So, Ed, cool. I am going to play you a little brief clip of audio, and I'm going to get you to tell me what you think of this type of music when you hear it. Is it something that you love, loathe, or just have to live with?
Oh, wow. We got a little audio.
It's interactive, here. Baby. Interactive.
Cool. Okay, that is a nightmare. That's just a nightmare. So that is kind of like, that combines a lot of stuff. So for just in terms of my musical taste, I hate technical music, especially stuff that's very repetitive. Now, I realize that some techno and the computerized music is super creative but I don't like that. It's just like constant repetitive, like it's like shitty disco. I mean, there's good, fun, funky disco, but then
totally,
there's
man, throwing some Boney M and Rasputin anytime.
Yeah, there's just some there's shitty repetitive disco, and then and combine that with weird Thai language or weird Thai singing that doesn't even seem normal by Thai standards. There's that is just it's pretty much the definition of annoying.
Yeah, I don't even know what song that is. Nothing against that particular song, but it's just a combination of really high pitched singing, really tinny, repetitive drums, and just repetitive beats.
Yeah,
with
that's
no creativity or fluctuation in tone or
that's
like that.
Yeah, that's a nightmare. And again, this is totally separate. I've talked before about how, like, traditional Thai music, like Malam or Luk Tung, I wish I liked, but I don't really like it. But I don't find it super annoying. It's just like I hear it and it's kind of interesting and cool, and I listen to it for a while, but I just can't get into it.
Right, same.
But I don't have some massive negative reaction to Thai music. Definitely not. I think it's kind of interesting and curious. I can't get hooked. But this type of like shitty, I don't know what to call it, shitty Thai techno / I guess it's trying to be dance music.
So it's the stuff that you hear in ladyboy bars.
Yeah, it's stuff that nightmares are made of.
Yeah, I think that's a solid loathe from both of us.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go loathe. I feel bad since we had that patron who kind of called us out and said most of our love, loathe, or live with are loathes. Even though statistically that's not really true, we do kind of spread it around. But this one, there's kind of no leeway on. There's no flexibility.
No, it's loathe. I'm not. I don't feel bad saying I loathe.
That's right, loathe. Sorry, loathe.
Loathe.
All right. So as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we'd like to say thank you to Fluff Abramson for lending us his support at the show shout-out level. Greg, what did you find out about Fluff?
Well, Fluff, first of all, I hope we're pronouncing that right, sir. Maybe it's a Floof or Floof. He is Swedish, so I don't know, maybe there's some kind of...
It could be a Floof.
Floof. Maybe that's... it's an interesting name, but Fluff Abramson, yeah. And we exchanged a couple of messages back and forth, and he says He says he's been a long-time listener, but he said for the longest time, he thought that I was saying patrons who support us at the show's shadow level, not
great.
shout out level.
Oh, that's great. That's
He said,
great.
and I've been curious about why you'd name it the shadow level. So I guess
it.
I've learned something today as well. Shadow, shout out. I got me thinking, man. I mean, what would a shadow patron level be? That sounds
Shadow
badass.
level.
Right?
Yeah, it does sound cool. Shadow level.
Shadow level. You get a free like ninja costume sent to you or something, but it's printed with Thai designs like Tom Yum Goong or something on the ninja mask or something. But check this out. He said, I think 2021 marks the first year in 10 years where I don't visit Thailand. So you guys, along with some YouTubers, are really the light in this pandemic tunnel. I miss the streets of Bangkok and beaches of Koh Phangan immensely. So that's very nice to hear. We can give you a little taste of your second home there, buddy.
That's what we're here for.
That's right. And interestingly, he says Floof is a Swede adopted from Taiwan, which means when he's a tourist in Thailand, it presents some problems. He said, namely, I'm quite often mistaken for being Thai.
Ah, interesting.
Sometimes I try to play along, not to make it awkward, but that may also result in more awkwardness when I finally have to say, all right, sorry, I don't understand Thai. Can we just talk in English, please?
Yeah. Well, this is definitely, I mean, we could almost do a whole show on this, this problem of being Asian but not Thai in Thailand, you know?
Right. It's happened to me a lot of times. I have my Chinese Canadian friend who came over to Thailand for a year. We would go out together and they would talk to her in Thai and she'd be like, I don't speak Thai. And then I would speak Thai. And then the waiter or something would look at me confused and then look back to my friend and say, and continue speaking in Thai. I'm like, yo, I'm speaking Thai.
Right.
So yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. That must be confusing. And it must get really annoying after a while.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But it's also funny that the Fluff tries to play along for as long as possible until like he just can't go any further. And he's like, all right, gigs up.
I give up, right? Yeah.
Just speak English, please. Yeah. So thanks for your support, man, all the way from Sweden. Hope you're staying warm, and we hope to see you back here soon when, what's a Swedish beer? Maybe you can bring some Swedish beer to Thailand for us.
Yeah, for sure.
Can't get into that. Anyway, we'll share a beer here, whether it's Swedish or Thai or whatever. But thanks for your support, man. We appreciate it. And welcome to the shadow level.
Thanks, Fluff. A final thanks to our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping support the show. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
We do so. You can also listen to each episode on the YouTube. You can send us a voicemail, which we'll use on the show online. And you can even reach out to me directly on Twitter or Insta, where I am BKK Greg. So thanks for listening, everyone. Stay safe, wear your mask, and get that vaccine if you can. And we'll see you back here next week.
Absolutely. Isn't it weird? Tap. Why is it tap?
You know, a word has always made me uncomfortable, and it's double weird because there's a very famous Canadian band with this name, whose lead singer is Luke Kroon, half Thai, is Moist.
Oh, no, Moist is the name of the band?
Yeah.
That's
brutal. They were huge in the 90s. They were like...
I've never heard of them.
They were Canada's REM. Yeah, they were massive.
Wow. Never heard of them.
Yeah.
It's a pretty rough name.
Moist, yeah. And they're popular. They were always, people were always saying like, "Oh, wouldn't it be the best thing to have a double bill, Moist and Whole?" So we entertained ourselves on the Canadian prairies in 1992.
I'm sure.